The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by EdgeBoost. Bank for better. Sign up today at just the pepper code SGPN to get a $25 deposit bonus. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Thursday night, May 29th, around 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm also Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the preview of the third round in the French Open. We're going to break down the matchups taking place on Friday and Saturday. Before that, though, brief recap of what happened last episode. Starting off with the Lock and Dog, we had a very nice bounce-back episode as we swept the Lock and Dog picks. For the Lock, had a nice win. We had Greek Sport and Diallo over 39.5 games at minus 118. Each of the first two sets were very close and very long. We, though, did need Diallo to win the third set, and he did in lopsided fashion. But luckily, we ended up seeing it go over as the match landed 41. Closed to 40.5, but you won anyway if you got it. So nice win there for the Lock. For the Dog, though, nice win with the parlay. We'd center under 3.5 sets, parlayed with men's 16 total over 18.5, and that got there at plus 109. So a nice bounce back for us in the second round. Try to keep rolling there for the third round. Plus, for the actual angles that we had for all the other matches, thought we did pretty well. So we'll recap those in a second. Before we get into any of the actual breakdown and a recap of the matches, a brief reminder, they do have some new content in SGPN because SGP guys are going to be ripping packs live on air. Next Monday night, they'll be breaking a case of Panini Prisms with dabs, and you can get 10% off your favorite team. Program at SGPN, go to sportsgambling.com/break to get in on the action. Starting off with the actual recap of the matches that took place on Wednesday. So for the matchup, saw Papiron end up beating DeBilo in straight sets. Thought that would be a bit longer. Thought that Papiron would win, but he ended up winning in straight sets. Samojedovic beat Cerundolo in straight sets. Thought that Cerundolo would win at least a set, but Medjedovic ended up winning. Thumb said he would destroy Galan. He did. Thought Altmaier would win in about 4 sets or 5, and he did so, as he ended up covering the spread, and he ended up winning with both players to win a set. Devone beat Opelka, no surprise there. Hallis beat Kekmanovic there in 4. Thought it would go 5, did like the over, though, and thought that Hallis was potentially alive to win it, but either way, did like the over that got there. Borges upset Rude, and a bit of a shocker there. Rude, though, hurt his knee, was playing through it, couldn't move, so you saw Rude win the first set comfortably, then his body betrayed him, and Borges won 12 of the last 13 games there in the last 2 sets. So that was very straightforward for the Dog, but you saw Rude could not move. He got injured, so nice job by Borges taking advantage of injured opponent as he advances into the third round. Gashanov beat Offner, thought he would, thought it'd be a marathon 2, got revenge for Geneva as he won in 5. Nice fun match there. Alcaraz did beat Morozin. Thought Morozin maybe would win a set. He did, but Alcaraz did win in 4 sets there. Perricard lost to DeZumer in 4. DeZumer got injured, actually, early 4th set, then fought it off and ended up winning. And didn't actually realize he won because he was delaying his celebration. Thought there were still points to be played, but he ended up winning. So nice job by him there. Paul ended up winning a marathon against Fuchsovics in a very weird match. Fuchsovics was up 2-0. Then Paul came back. He was down actually a break, and Fuchsovics was serving for the match in the 4th set. Choked it. Paul eventually broke again, won the 4th set 7-5. Then you ended up seeing a crazy 5th set, but Paul eventually got the break and held as he ended up winning 6-4 in the final set. Crazy match. Nice job by him there. But either way, point is a fun match nonetheless. And Paul was injured, battling an abdomen injury, survived though, and advanced as he ended up winning after coming back from 2-0 down. Tsitsipas, though, lost to Gigante in 4 sets, which is really, really funny because we get to laugh at Tsitsipas again, but I thought Gigante played very well. Tsitsipas made him work for it, had some breakpoint chances in the last 2 return games, couldn't convert, and Gigante seemed to come up with the goods every time. Had an ace-down breakpoint, had a drop shot winner on breakpoint. Felt like he just had nerves of steel and got the job done there in 4. But Tsitsipas has been a mess in Grand Slams for the last calendar year at this point. It's funny, but I wanted to bring it up because Tsitsipas found his rhythm in Dubai. Since then, right back down off the cliff. He's been really bad, and nice win there by Gigante, who as a qualifier was able to pull off the upset to the surprise of many. Moving on, you saw Korda beat Brooksby in straight sets. Not a shock there. Brooksby won the title in Houston. Houston's fake clay. Said this many times. He's not a good clay player, and Korda destroyed him in straight sets. Tiafoe looked great against Krenya Busta. Beat him 6-4, 6-3, 6-1. Destruction. That was really never close. And Rune ended up beating Nava in 3 sets with a breaker there in the middle set. So nothing too shocking. The 2 entertaining matches, or the most entertaining matches of the day, of course, were the 5 setters between Kashanov and Offner, and Paul and Fuchsovics. Ironically, They play against each other in the third round. So we'll see who's less exhausted for that matchup taking place on Friday. But either way, point is a decent amount of fun and competitive matchups took place on Wednesday. Moving on to the matchups on Thursday, you started the day with absolute Armageddon. You had three separate two-set choke jobs to start off the day. You had Dimenauer, who was minus 1,000 against Bublik, minus 1,200 in some spots, was up 2-0. And then Bublik came back and ended up hitting a front tweener and a passing shot on the final point of the match. But either way, Bublik was able to win as a 7-1 dog, down 2-0, and was able to get the job done. However, Dimenauer was not the biggest favorite to blow a 2-set lead on Thursday because Mensik was minus 2,000 against Rocha in the matchup there early morning on Thursday. Won the first 2 sets 6-2, 6-1. Then he lost the third set, and you figure, okay, maybe he'll win this in 4. He lost the fourth set, and you thought, what's happening? And Mensik lost in the fifth set. So we had a minus 1,000 favorite and a minus 2,000 favorite each blow a 2-set lead and lose in 5. As once again, the first 2 matches of the day, which is insane. Then you move on to the other match that happened, where Fees was up 2-0, and he was a minus 600 favorite. Dimenauer ended up once again blowing it, but he did win the first sets comfortably. Same thing with Mensik, who dropped 3 games in the first 2 sets combined. At least Fees' sets were competitive because he won the first 2 sets in tie breaks. Munar, though, won the next set 6-2, then bageled Fees in the fourth, and you thought we might be getting the same thing 3 matches in a row, but Fees did manage to regain his overall composure. He fought off a love 40 in the 4-4 game, and then Munar got boomerang broken for the loss. So Munar actually had 3 breakpoints there at love 40. Then he had 2 more breakpoints in the deuces. 5 breakpoints with a chance to serve it out, and he choked it. And he was also up a break in the 5th set. So Munar kind of collapsed there. Fees came back from the brink. But what a crazy start to the day, where you had 2 separate massive 4-digit favorites who choked in a 2-0 lead scenario. And then we almost had it again, but Fees came back and won in 5. Leheshka, though, beat Fakina. Thought that would happen. Thought the price was off. Thought Leheshka was solid. Got the job done. Zverev beat De Jong in 4. Griekspoor beat Diallo in 4. We did like the over that got there. Sinner destroyed Gasquet. I'll get back to that in a second. Point is, though, Rublev ended up beating Walton in straight sets. Caboli beat Arnaldi in 4. You ended up seeing Fonseca get challenged a bit by Herbert in the first 2 sets. Then he got the break and dominated as he ended up winning in straight sets. Quinn, though, came back from the brink as he was down 2-1 against Shevchenko, came back and won in 5. So Nori beat Gomez in 3. So Djokovic beat Moutet in straight sets. Moutet, though, did have a set point in the 3rd set, could not convert, and then eventually Joker dominated the breaker as he won in straight sets. Did like Moutet plus the games, though, that got there, as Moutet only lost by 8. Besides that, saw Misolic blow a 2-set lead to Shapo, then came back and won in the 5th. Kind of the exact same script as the Fees match, but either way, nice job by Misolic getting the job done. Shapo keeps disappointing. What else is new? Humbert ended up retiring midway through the 2nd set, and you saw Draper outlast Monfils in 4. Should have went 5. Monfils ran out of gas and blew a massive lead in the 4th set. Is what it is, though. Nice win there for Draper. Now, I said I was going to get back to it in a second. Do you want to talk about the main news story from the 2nd round? We had the official end of a longtime veteran on tour, Richard Gasquet, who officially retired from tennis, and he ended up getting his ass kicked by Sinner. No surprise there. Ended up getting bageled in 2nd set, was actually tied 4-4 in the 3rd set, got broken, and then lost the match. Did not break the entire match. It was really what you expected, seeing a longtime veteran against the number 1 player in the world. It was not close. It's not really the point. Point is, Gasquet did win a round. Didn't really see that coming as he beat Ottman in the first matchup. To briefly touch upon Gasquet's career, I think it's summed up perfectly by mentioning one stat. Against the big 3, the main era he played in. So against Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, he was a combined 3-50. 3-50. So he was 0-18 against Nadal, I think he beat Federer twice and Djokovic once, I think. I might have reversed that. But the point is, the reason why Gasquet had kind of an underwhelming pro career after all the expectations that he had as being the future face of French tennis, the big three would destroy him, which opens up the conversation. If Gasquet played in a different era, like a Tsonga, like a Ferrer, any of these guys, would he have won a Grand Slam? I don't know, because Gasquet did make the Grand Slam semis 3 separate times, US Open once, and Wimbledon twice, I believe. Point is, though, Gasquet was really never a threat to win a Grand Slam title because he could never beat the 3 main guys. Even Murray was dominant against him as well. I think Murray was 9-4 against him. So Gasquet had a very nice career. I think out of the expectations he had in juniors as being a future #1 guy in the world and a future multiple-time Grand Slam champion, he had a relatively underwhelming career. But he was around for a long time, played for about 20 years, and he has over 600 wins. He never won a 1,000 title, never won a Grand Slam, never made it into the Grand Slam semis. Did win a bronze medal, though, in the Olympics for mixed doubles. But the point is, Gasquet had a very nice career. I never thought he was the level of Del Potro or Ferrer or Nishikori, any of these guys. I thought he was worse than those guys, but I still think he had a very solid career. A guy who had one of the best backhands of all time, and a guy who was a professional. He would show up for 20 plus years, could have retired younger, didn't, had some injuries, fought his way back, and gave it all he had, and I respect it. But at the end of the day, the forehand and the serve were not good enough, and Gasquet had himself a very nice career, retiring in front of the home crowd in France. But we all know Gasquet was never really an inner circle elite guy. He was always in that second tier, almost second, third tier. The big three are by themselves, though, so no shame in that. But he just played in the wrong era, and that's a really respectable record of having 600 wins and a very impressive amount of longevity. But he was always a guy that we never really took seriously to win any of the major tournaments, and he never did. That's kind of Gasquet's legacy. Kind of sums up France as a whole, to be honest, because a reminder that he was expected to lift the drought that the French tennis crowd had, because the French tennis crowd had not really won a Grand Slam in a long time, and we thought maybe there would be a chance for one of the Frenchmen to win, whether it was involving Tsonga or whether it was involving Gasquet. Somebody would maybe find a way to win a Grand Slam title for France. That did not happen at all, and he was not really close. A reminder that the last French Grand Slam champion, I believe, was Yannick Noah, so keep that in mind. But I do think that you're looking at a very good career. Maybe it wasn't what the expectations were based on his juniors career, etc. But I believe Yannick Noah was the last guy to win who was a Frenchman, and that was 40 plus years ago, basically like 50 years ago. It's been a long time. So I feel like his career kind of perfectly sums up the current state of French tennis for the last 40 years or so. But once again, a nice overall career, and we'll see what he does moving forward. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the recap of the second round. Time to move on into the third round of the French Open. Before we get into the actual preview, though, reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, Edge, because they're first time making up for bettors, ensuring that all gambling transactions are approved. Use fees and balance, catch rewards as well. 100% approval from the deposit sign up today. Edge.pepper code SGPN. Sign up when you do so. Deposit $25. Edge match deposit. Edge.pepper code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Nick Fantasy because they are going along from the playoffs with their extender bonus. Hop in game one. And the longer the series goes, the bigger the bonus gets. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to get a special pick and first time deposit offer up to 1K bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finish recapping the second round. Time to move on into the third round of the French Open. Starting off with the reminder that we are not going to be covering every match on the card, but some. So keep that in mind. Not going to go through every single match on the card. Anyway, now we got that settled. Moving on into the matchups for Friday. First match we're going to talk about between Musetti and Navone. Musetti is minus 800. Navone is plus 560. For the spread, minus 7.5 for Musetti, plus 7.5 for Navone. Over-unders at 32.5. Straight sets for Musetti's even money, and the plus 2.5 sets is minus 130. Navone has been solid. Beat Opelka, who's not good on clay at all, and beat Nakashima in 4. So he's beaten two guys not really good on clay. two big serving Americans who are not really going to be that useful on the courts here in the French Open. Point is, he won comfortably in both matches, so straightforward there. Musetti, though, beat Hanfmann and Galan in straight sets. Really wasn't close in any of those matches, but the point is, Navone has a very solid amount of clay talent. Did beat Musetti on clay last year in Italy. But the point is, they faced off in the Olympics, and you saw Musetti win in straight sets. There was a breaker there, though, so it was not too easy. But Navone did make each match competitive to some degree and ended up splitting the two matchups last year. Now, I think Musetti's gotten better since the Olympics last year. Even though he did win the bronze medal, I feel like he's kind of gone up a little bit based on talent and his overall consistency, and Navone might be in trouble. Now, I do think looking at the actual spread, 7.5 sounds about right. You could argue that maybe there's value on Navone if he's able to force a breaker, because we have seen a breaker in each of the first, we had a 7-5 in the first meeting. But we have seen at least one competitive set there, and Navone, I think, should win a set, at least based on value. Do I think there's much on Musetti in straight sets, even money? Maybe, but I think I'd make the counterpoint that you can definitely find better options. Because if you end up going with Navone to win a set, but Musetti to win the match, you'll get a better deal. For example, Musetti to win with both players winning a set is available at around plus 140. I know Musetti might end up winning in straight sets, but I think the value itself might be present with the argument that Navone will make it at least one set competitive, and maybe he steals it. But I do think plus 140 is interesting. Tough to find value when you have a massive favorite like Musetti on clay. It's either straight sets or you're picking Navone to do something. I'll go with Navone to do a little bit of damage, but I do think Musetti wins in 4. Give me Musetti to win. Both players win a set there at around plus 140. Moving on to the next matchup, you have a matchup between Halles and Rune. For this one, Rune is massive favorite, about minus 600, give or take, and for Halles in this one, you have around plus 460. For the spread, minus 5.5 for Halles, plus 5.5 for, minus 5.5 for Rune, plus 5.5 for Halles. Over-unders at 37.5. For the over-under in sets, I see 3.5. The over's minus 130. I see the over in 4.5 sets is plus 280. Straight sets, though, you have Rune to win in straight sets at plus 117. Halles to win ace sets minus 150. Now, for the matchup, Rune so far in the event has been fine. Beat Nava in straight sets, had a breaker there, though, and beat Agut, but he's won 6 straight sets. As for Halles, he's had a couple of interesting matches. Had Makic, who got injured, so he won in a set and a half. Then ended up beating Kekmanovic in 4 with a breaker. Close match, but he got the job done there in 4. Now, Rune, I think, is obviously the better player. However, we know that he's also a head case who can drop sets left and right. I like the over for sets here. I think Rune is actually too big of a favorite here. I think Halles can maybe make it interesting. I'll put it this way. After all the chaos we saw on Thursday, would it shock me if Rune got upset against a Frenchman with the crowd against him, and maybe he has a letdown in a couple of sets? No. That sounds pretty par for the course, actually. I do think the over 3.5 sets, though, is value at minus 130. I like it. I see a matchup that goes at least 4. Think Rune, if he wins a couple sets, might end up mentally checking out of one, and Halles with his serve and firepower can find openings against Rune. So I am going to go with the over 3.5 sets as my main thought for that one. Moving on to the next matchup. Going to go with we'll go with Tiafoe against Korda. Now, for this one, Korda is a decent favorite. He's favored by about minus 120. You have Tiafoe at plus 100 for the spread, minus half a game for Korda, plus half a game for Tiafoe. The over-unders at 40.5. For the set spread, though, you have Korda minus 1.5 sets at plus 160. Tiafoe minus 1.5 sets is plus 190. For that head history, faced off a couple times, and Korda's been good against Tiafoe in the past, as Korda is currently 3-3, but he won the meeting that they had most recently, as he beat him in Washington last year, also beat him in London the year prior on clay. In fact, Korda was actually down 3-0 in the head-to-head, and has won 3 straight. So recent form suggests that Korda should win. He's won 6 straight sets against Tiafoe. However, none of those meetings were on clay. Faced off one time on clay in Estoril in 2022, and Tiafoe did win in 3. So based on the form of both guys are playing well. Tiafoe destroyed Busta in straight sets, also beat Safulin in straight sets. Korda did beat Darderi in 4. Darderi's a good clay player. He won a clay title in Markic a couple weeks ago, so nice win there for Korda, and he destroyed Brooksby in straight sets. So for this matchup, the question is, do I think Tiafoe will be able to I'd say change the head-to-head script again because Corda's had his number lately. I'm going to say no. I thought Tiafoe played basically a perfect match against Busta. Thought he played very well. I thought he looked very sharp over the course of those 3 sets. With Tiafoe's history, do I trust him to play a perfect match back-to-back rounds? Hell no, I don't. I think Corda is a solid player. I think both guys are pretty similar in terms of skill level, but I think I trust Corda a bit more on clay. I think Tiafoe make it interesting. I think I actually like the under on games. 40.5 feels pretty high. I could see 4 sets with no breakers, and you get the under anyway. But I think 40.5 does feel pretty high for me. I'll go with the under on that one. Think that total should be closer to 38.5 in my opinion. But I do think that 40.5 is a bit high. I'll go with the under. I think Corda wins. I just think that this total feels a bit steep. I'll go with the under on that one as a main thought for that matchup. I see a question from Asher asking if I like the big money line favorites with Rune, with Zverev, with Djokovic, and Musetti. Musetti should win. Think that you're looking at a spot where maybe you see him drop a set, but I think he ends up winning. I think Rune's actually in potential danger. I think he'll win, but I think Hallis is definitely live to win it. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to automatically pencil Rune in for the 4th round. So I'll pass on Rune. Zverev I'll get to in a second, and Djurk I'll get into in a second. Before the first 2, Musetti I think should definitely win. And Rune, I am lukewarm on. I'll put it that way. Moving on, though, to the continuation of the 3rd round. Moving on to the matchups taking place on Friday. No offense to DeZumer and Alcaraz. I'm not going to really waste my time going through that one. Moving on, though, to the matchup between Bublik and Rocha. For this one, Bublik is a massive favorite in the round. He's about minus 290 after beating de Minaur. Rocha, though, beat Mensik. He's plus 230. For the spread, I see 4.5. For the over-under, I see 37.5. For the over 3.5 sets, I see minus 175. For Bublik minus 1.5 sets, I see around minus 140. Rocha plus 1.5 sets is a plus 109. Now, Bublik, we know, has never been a great clay player. Better recently, though, won a clay challenger title. He looked pretty good in the first 2 rounds here in the French Open. Beat Duckworth, who's not worth a damn on clay, and beat de Minaur in 5 sets. De Minaur complained about the schedule, talking about how fatigue played a factor. I don't really care, to be honest. A nice win by Bublik. That's all I'm going to say about that. Point is, though, they're looking at a guy who's currently feeling it a bit on clay. Now, Rocha did make it through French Open qualifying, ended up beating Bertrand, beat Barrios Vera, and beat Van Asch in a final set 7-5, then beat Basilashvili in 5, and beat Mensik in 5. So the question here is pretty simple. Do I think Rocha has anything left in the tank for this matchup after having back-to-back 5-setters with only 1 day off? Or do I think Bublik is going to be a clown again and he'll drop a set? I think for this one, I'm going to go with the over in games. I find it interesting that the over 3.5 sets is minus 175, but 37.5 is only at minus 115 on the over. When I'm looking at Rocha, who has gone over this number regularly, he had no breakers against Mensik, which is kind of shocking. But before that, he had at least 1 tie break in 5 straight matches, so he tends to have some decently long sets. As for Bublik, we know he can easily drop a set, good server as well. It would not shock me if you had a 7-5 or 7-6 set here. I think it goes 4 sets. I think Bublik wins in 4 sets, but I'll go with the over in this one. I think 37.5 is a bit low. You get 4 sets of six fours there. You win. And you even get a mix of 6 fours and 6 threes. You still win. So I like the over in that one. I think Bublik wins in 4. So maybe Bublik minus 1.5 sets as well. But I do think Rocha is a pretty interesting player who maybe can make some noise in future events. But I think Bublik wins. I think he's just ready for the moment. I do think after having 1 5-setter, he'll look more rested because he only played 3 sets in the first round, where Rocha had to go to the brink in both rounds. So I'll go with Bublik in 4, but give me the over in that one, picking a bit of a tie break there in that matchup to help out the total. Moving on to Zverev against Kaboli. Now, this one's actually a pretty fun matchup. Zverev is a decent favorite here. Zverev's around minus 500 or so. Kaboli's plus 380. For the spread, minus 5.5 for Zverev, plus 5.5 for Kaboli. The over-unders at 36.5 games. Set spread, Zverev in straight sets at plus 157. Kaboli to win a set is minus 205. Kaboli to win 2 sets, though, is plus 146. The over 3.5 sets minus 170, so you're expecting to see probably 4 sets. Zverev no-showed the first set against De Jong and then turned it on as he won comfortably in the final 3 sets. Also beat Tien, who's not good on clay, in straight sets in the first round. For Caboli, ended up beating Cilic comfortably and ended up beating Arnaldi in 4. He's also off the title in Hamburg, so he's been in great form recently. For that history between them, they have never played. Now, I do think Caboli is a very fun player. I've liked him for a few years. You might remember we backed him early last year and made a lot of money. He's won 2 titles this season on clay. Solid player. Now, Zverev, I think, should win this match just based on his overall stamina, and I do think based on his consistency. However, do I think he's going to win comfortably? No, I do not. I think that Caboli can make this interesting. I think if De Jong can win a set, Caboli could definitely win 1 or 2. We saw Zverev get pushed to the brink early last year against Griekspoor, came back and won, then he eventually made the final. But I do think that Caboli can make this match interesting. I think Zverev wins, but it's not easy. I'll go with my usual Grand Slam approach. Give me the favorite to win with both players to win a set. I think that's the approach I'll go with. You can find that available on FanDuel at around... Sorry, trying to find the price here. So Zverev to win, both players to win a set, plus 132. I like it. I'll go with that as my choice for this one. Moving on to the next matchup, you have Rublev against Fils. Now, Rublev has been winning more convincingly recently as he beat Harris in 4 and beat Walton in 3. Couple breakers, though. Made the final in Hamburg and lost, but he's been playing pretty well recently. Fils, though, had a 4-setter against Jari and a 5-set marathon against Munar. And Fils seemed a bit injured over the course of that matchup, and he was still able to survive. Now, for the injury itself, the question is how serious is it going to be, because he came back in the 5th set. However, I do think the back issue could be concerning, especially if you're picking a longer match. Faced off on clay earlier this year, actually, and Fils killed him in Monte Carlo as he beat him 6-2, 6-3. Now, for the actual pricing here, Rublev's minus 175 or so, Fils is plus 150, spreads minus 3.5 or 2.5 on Rublev, and you can find the over-under at 39.5. Now, Rublev minus 1.5 sets, plus 117. Fils plus 1.5 sets is at minus 150. I think I'm going Rublev minus 1.5 sets. If they were healthy, I would take Fils. The fact is, Bublik is a guy, for example, who after a 5-set marathon in a good matchup, you might expect him to look sharp at times, but also potentially to punt some sets. Fils is also not afraid of punting sets. It's not as extreme as Bublik, but Fils can definitely punt the set or two, trying to preserve energy. And I feel like that's kind of a similar comparison I'll make to Bublik. You have some guys on tour that play the marathon game and not the sprint game, where if they're behind a break early in a set, they'll let it go. They'll just cut ties and they'll regroup for the next set. Fils might do that, potentially. If he goes down a break early, he might end up punting a set to try to save energy, trying to keep the back intact moving forward. So based on that, I think Fils will drop a couple of sets, maybe one intentionally, trying to save some energy if he falls behind early. But with the back injury, I don't see any value on Fils. He got the job in against Munar, barely, who had 5 break points in the 4-4 game and choked him away, and then eventually got broken trying to stay alive. So Fils was an inch away from losing. He also lost a set 6-0 as he punted away the 4th set. I think Rublev, based on his overall form and based on his health right now, has a lot of value at minus 1.5 sets at around plus 117. I'm going to take it. Fils, I think, is a very solid player, but back injuries are very tough to play with in 3 to 5 on clay. I think he will struggle. And you could argue, yes, we saw Humbert retire in front of the home crowd there in France. I don't see Fils dropping out. I think he'll show up, play it out. If he loses, he loses. But I don't see him dropping out in the 3rd round. Think he'll struggle like Ruud did, make it to the finish line, lose, and then kind of tip something to the crowd and take his farewell. I see a similar story here for the value. I can't take Fils. I think he's injured. Give me Rublev minus 1.5 sets here at plus 117 as a main thought for that one. Moving on to the next matchup. I'll go with the last one. I'm skipping Djokovic because he's going to destroy Misilic. I got nothing to add for that. Sinner Lehecka is interesting. I think Sinner wins. I mean, I got nothing else to add. He's minus 1,200. So maybe the over in that one for games if you think Lehecka forces a breaker. I got nothing else to add there. However, you have what could be the match of the round. There are a couple of really good matchups. But I have to mention Fonseca against Draper, which should be insane. Now, Draper is a favorite, -180. You have Fonseca +155. For the spread, you have -3.5 for Draper, +3.5 for Fonseca. The over-under's at 38.5. For the set spread, you have Draper -1.5 sets at even money. You have Fonseca +1.5 sets at -130. Fonseca's been really, really good in the event so far. Killed Hurkacz, made the final in Geneva, beat him 6-2, 6-4, 6-2. Then played Herbert. Not the easiest match, but Herbert also had the crowd behind him, and he's a good server. But Fonseca did win in straight sets. So he's been coasting. As for Draper, he's been vulnerable. Dropped a set to Bellucci, dropped a set to Monfils. Should have been 2 sets. Monfils ran out of gas and lost the last 5 games. But Draper was down 5-2 in the 4th set. They could have easily won 5. You're looking at Draper with the fight off 2 set points there in the 4th set as well. So Draper wasn't really playing that well, and I don't think he's played that well so far in the tournament. Now, they faced off earlier this year on hard court, and you saw Fonseca lose to Draper in Indian Wells, 6-4, 6-0. Doesn't mean much. This is on clay. Now, I think Fonseca's actually live here, and I think that he's going to win. I think Draper's looked quite underwhelming. You could argue that Monfils pushed him because Monfils was playing well. Monfils was on fumes towards the back end of the 4th set and fell apart. But Draper, I think, has been pretty inconsistent so far. He's had a couple of sloppy games in there, dropping serve more than I expected. Fonseca, though, has been incredible. And I think based on the pricing, I think -180 actually sounds kind of steep in my opinion. I disagree, Mavi. I know Mavi's saying he thinks Draper's going to kill him. I don't agree with you. I think Draper in Indian Wells was in better form, and Draper won the title at Indian Wells. He was in a very, very impressive, I'd say, overall form, and so far in the event, he really has not looked that good in the French Open. I think that you can make the argument that Fonseca had an easier path. I don't know if I agree with that either, because he beat Hurkacz, who just made a clay final and destroyed him. I think it's a very close match. I see it being close, and I think it might go 4 or 5. The thing about Draper, though, is that he does have durability concerns in years past. I thought Monfils made him work for it. It was very physical, and he was on the court for a long time. I think Fonseca, if it goes 4 or 5, I can see Draper's body kind of wearing down. So I disagree, Mavi. I think that Fonseca is actually quite live to win this match. I think it'll be close. I think that if Draper does win, it goes at least 4 sets. I see it going 4 or 5. But for value, I'll go Fonseca. I think that he's playing very good tennis, and I think that this price is too big. I'd have Draper favored. I'd have him at -130. I think 190 is insane, just based on the actual form they've been in the event. But if you want to go for Fonseca to win and both players to win a set, +260, I think that's a great price. +260 is a very intriguing price. I'll go Fonseca, though, for this one. I think that it's a good spot for him. Draper's not looked like the elite player that we've seen all year, and Fonseca's been really good. Give me Fonseca and both players win a set at +260 as my main thought for that one. Anyone, let's wrap it up for the actual preview of the 3rd round in the French Open. Time to move on into the Lock and Dog picks. For that, the reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is, once again, Rhythm, because it is our job at SGPN to help you find the best picks, and now we've got a great tool to help you take it to the next level. You've heard us talk about Rhythm before. They just dropped a new game-changing feature called Power Trends. These are AI-detected patterns where Rhythm's models have consistently won and has a high ROI. And a reminder that if you do want to check out the actual new feature, check out the Rhythm app, download the app, check out the Power Trends, and start betting smarter. You know that we will be doing so. And a reminder, they can also try it for free for a week by using the 7-day free trial. Use the link sportscampus.com/RATHMM. We're also brought to you by Circle and their Ultimate Fantasy Football giveaway, because Circle Resort and Casino in Las Vegas giving away the ultimate experience for fantasy football for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs with their stay. We're going to get a 2-night stay at Circle Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league. Hold your draft like a bound. Stadium swim with 5K food and beverage credit, limit transportation as well too from the airport, and much more. Contest is from May 5th to June 30th, so sign up now before you forget. Enter at sportscampus.com/circa, sportscampus.com/CIRCA. We're also brought to you by MyBookie.ag, because MyBookie's plays every sport. They have the NBA playoffs, they have the NHL playoffs, they have tennis, they have golf, you name it, UFC. Also available in a ton of locations. Use crypto for all these payouts. Easy deposit when you sign up for a new account. Make sure to use the promo code SGPN. Get a $100 match up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the third round. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. As usual, I skipped a couple plays that I was going to get back to for the end of the show. I skipped the Khachanov match against Paul, and I skipped the matchup between Borges and Papirin. For the lock, give me Khachanov money line at minus 138. Now, I will specify, bet this on a book that grades retirements as wins. There's a chance that Paul drops out. Keep that in mind. So I am going to go with Khachanov, but only bet this on a book if you grade retirements as wins. So this is on FanDuel at minus 138. They have the best retirement rules out of any sports book. Keep that in mind. Now, for the reasons why. Paul, we saw when a marathon against Fucsovics was down 2-0. Fucsovics was actually serving it out for the match in the fourth set and choked it. So Paul probably should have lost that match, came back and won, said he was battling an abdomen issue the entire match, and it actually kind of ramped up a bit in intensity in the fifth set. He fought it off, he won, but he's definitely below 100%, and abdomen issues are very tough to get over in the span of about a day or two. I think he's well below 100%. Khachanov, though, won a marathon against Offner. He looked good over the end of the match. Fatigue or injuries were not a factor for him. And Khachanov's play style is pretty similar to Fucsovics. He's, of course, better than Fucsovics. But the fact that Paul had so much trouble against Fucsovics in the last round, and now he's injured, I think is a very tough matchup and spot for Paul. So I'll go with Khachanov here on the money line at minus 138. I think it's a good price for the retirement angle, and I do think that Khachanov, if it goes distance, which it should, I don't see Paul winning in straight sets. I think if he wins, it goes 4 or 5. I will dare his body to hold up and beat Khachanov in a marathon match. Give me Khachanov to eventually wear down Paul. Think he'll win this at minus 138 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go with the Papirin to win the first set and the match prop against Borges. Borges, despite making it to the third round, has been really bad early in matches. He has lost the first set in 6 straight matches. Fun fact. He's a comeback kid. The problem is he's also fortunate to be here because he was down 2 sets to a qualifier in Jacquet in the first round. Then Ruud killed him in the first set, got injured, and Borges came back and won. So Borges is kind of fortunate to be here. If Ruud was healthy, he would have gotten destroyed. I think Borges is a fine clay player, not amazing, but he drops the first set all the time, and you're looking at Papirin, who's been in great form. He's won the first set in 4 of the last 5 matches. He's a fast starter, and he's also not dropped a set yet in the entire event. Looked great against Tabilo. Thought it would be a marathon match, and it wasn't. Papirin, though, has the rest advantage. He has the form advantage, in my opinion, and Borges is a very bad first set player. But you're looking at the actual pricing by comparison. Papirin to win the match itself is minus 140. I could turn that into a good price at plus 130 for picking Borges to lose the first set again, like he's done in 6 straight matches. I like the value. I think Borges is the better clay. I think Borges is a pretty good player. Papirin is the better clay player, in my opinion. So I like the value there. Think that he'll win, but not in straight sets. So once again, the plays here for the lock and dog in the third round of the French Open. Lock's going to be on Khachanov on the money line at minus 138 against Paul. For the dog, I'm going to go with the Papirin to win the first set and the match prop at plus 130 on FanDuel. That's going to wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the fourth round of the French Open.